Can you guys give me a test real quick? Can you just talk?
Yeah, sure. Test sound, mic check, mic check.
Oh, perfect, perfect. A little bit more.
Uh, Nate, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear pretty well. But how about the basin?
Yeah, I'm just switching a cable, so making sure that you only being picked up on one side. One more time, can you guys? What's the weather like over there? By the way, where you guys
Well, the weather over here today is, as always, sunny because I live in the northeastern part of my country, which never rains, so it's okay. It rains sporadically, just sometimes the weather goes crazy, but other than that, it's pretty, sun. It's just sun and some little clouds.
As for myself, it is very gloomy and cold here in the northeastern part of the United States. Unfortunately, we've been getting hit with snow as of late, the opposite of sun. So, unfortunately, just not much that could be done. It is a little bit chilly. I mean, I have a blanket to kind of keep me warm for right now, so I can't complain. I mean, it's very comfy stuff.
What are your predictions for the match? I'm going to intro you guys a second, but let me Oh, let's go. We already got people coming in. I'm just going to talk. I'm going to get the stream set up. I'm just going to do a real quick intro, guys. It is 6 a.m. Japanese Standard Time. So before the run gets started here, I want everyone to know that this is the first time that ASF has been requested to do a restream, and I'm fortunate enough to have Bad News Nate-san and the amazing Vash-san here. They're both like basically longtime runners of this game, knowledge keepers. They know probably. I was lucky to get really some of the top people in the community for this. So I'm not going to be talking, but I just wanted to intro people that you're in good hands. So if you have any questions or there's something that you notice about the Discord, just be sure to let a mod know in chat, or if there's a sound issue, we're going to be capturing the audio in just a second here. So I'm going to toss off to them. If you guys have a request for an event as well, and you want to host your channel and have people from ASF or the anime community talk about your game or your event, you're always welcome to head over to the ASF Discord and request that at any time. And also as well, I'm going to give them a time in a second here, but you're always welcome to request of the mods about Discord links for the Forbidden Memories Discord, or be sure to give them a follow during the marathon. So having said that, let me pass it off to Vash-san and Bad News Nate-san. So all yours, guys. I'm gonna disappear into the background. Goodbye.
Good evening, everyone. It's a major pleasure to be with you guys here, and with me is Bad News Nate. Hello.
Hello, everyone. And thanks so much for having me, Vash. And also DBK and to everybody else watching the restream as well. Thank you so much for being here. It's a great pleasure to be a part of another restream and another great matchup in the Brazilian 15 card mod Grand Championship match featuring Nexon and Thug KJJ. Now, current breakdown currently for both of our runners here is that Nexon is currently representing the winner's bracket, and Thug KJJ is representing the loser's bracket. So currently in this kind of tournament, it is double elimination, but this is a rematch actually from earlier on in the tournament in which Nexon actually sent Thug to the loser's bracket.
Yeah, it was quite the upset. Some much of the favoritism in this tournament goes towards the KJJ, but Nexing has been growing in this regard too with the people. So it's gonna be a really tough. How do I say the cheering, the people cheering in the Speedruns Brazil community will be divided because both these runners, they are pretty amazing, and they've garnered quite the following through their lifetime and during this tournament. Just for a little bit of context, third KJJ is the best time in YuGiOh right now in Brazil. I don't recall exactly his position in the leaderboard, but he has the best Brazilian time in this game, followed by Lendario Z, and which was in the tournament too, but got eliminated. Let me just check the brackets real quickly because I don't recall where they did. I think it was stuck in the lower bracket run. Yes, it was the lowest last match. Not actually last, sorry, but before the loser final, exactly. Before the loser final. There was Third KGJ and Lendario Z, which are both the best times we had in Brazil for the game. And it's gonna be. I hope it's gonna be a really evenly match. It's something that happened in this tournament, that some of the players got really bad luck, which is unfortunate. And some matches were quite one-sided, but we've been we've got the luck sometimes to see some really evenly matches where a death in the final 7 was what decided it was really close. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So while this is going on, it looks like the race has officially started already between both of our runners. So let's go ahead and get into the live action and let's take a look and see how our runners are going to fare.
Yeah, basically about the start, just to give a little bit of context. In the beginning of the tournament, it was pretty common for the runners to check their decks. Most of the from the first round, during the first round of the tournament, the runners used to check their decks in the beginning to see if they got some good removal like Raigeki, or if they got any equipment or any thunder or any dragon. For people that don't know about how this run goes, it's basically the runners will try to farm to the best extent in an efficient manner. Thunder cards, dragon cards, and if possible, equipments and fields that help the twin-headed thunder dragon. The twin-headed thunder dragon is the main tool in the arsenal because it's a card that has 2,800 attack points, and it's pretty versatile. And
Yeah,
I brought this because, sorry, just to finish the thought.
Sure, go ahead.
So basically, at the start of the tournament, they used to check a lot the deck and resets sometimes, but from the midpoint of the tournament onwards, the runners got into this trend of not checking the deck at all. I'm just gonna go straight into Egypt 1 and get rid of Egypt 1 in the fastest way possible. That is not doing it. It's just talking with Muran and going forwards, losing to Haishin 1 and straight into World Tournament.
Yeah, and another thing to follow up on as well with 15 card is that it's very easy to grind for equips in this. So, one thing to mention with Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, which is the card that Vash mentioned, is that it takes 5 equips, and all 5 equips you can either start with or you can win at some point during the run. Those equips are Invigoration, Horn of Light, Dragon Treasure, Beast Fangs, and Dark Energy. The other equips that our runners will be looking for a little bit later on during this run are the equips Bright Castle and Megamorph, both of which we call universal equips because they work on any monster in the game. So we'll see that a little bit later on, in which the runners will perform what's called an ATEC, which is basically like a laundry list of requirements that each of our runners will have to do in order to achieve a specific rank.
Yeah, it's one of the main. It's one of the main strategies in the run to gather resources. For in case of equipment resources. One of the strongest equipments in the game, which is the Megamorph. You can drop it through an attack on Pegasus. So later on in the run, we'll be paying close attention to the moment the runners come to Pegasus. If they actually farmed, got the drop of a trap card. Sometimes in the tournament, some of the runners got unlucky and couldn't, for the love of God, drop a trap card. So that hinders a little bit the progress in the run. They can go and try and risk it more with a vanilla style of deck, which was the case for Komari. There was this matchup, Komari and Namitai, in which Komari couldn't drop anything useful. And Namitai had like 2 Megamorphs, 3 MBD, if I recall correctly. But even so, Namitai was the loser of the match because Komari simply went for the crazy strat of, I have low resources, I'm just gonna go straight through the end of the game and vanilla it basically, which is, going with 2 equipments, 1 field, and having really, really great luck.
Yeah, it's one of the
And of
hardest
course,
situations to go through as well, especially with performing with the vanilla deck. So the way a vanilla would usually work is that you would go in with either 2 or 3 equips, generally at the bare minimum for final 6 or final 7, depending on the route that you would desire to go with, whether it's in a race or just a standard any percent run for that matter. Um, but our runners obviously will grind for equips or whatnot. It just depends on what happens here.
yeah,
So
and
we'll
and
see that
talking
a little bit later on.
and talking about farming, the runners have just entered now the first farm in the game. That during the tournament and in a race setting is the most common strategy for safety, which is farming DMK or farming Rex after defeating him in the World Tournament. So Thug just entered DMK, and Nexin did choose DMK also.
Oh
So it's
wow.
basically a choice, right? What would you prefer in regards with both how both runners are? Nexin has 2 dragons, 1 thunder. Thug
Yeah.
JJ has 0, 2. So what would you prefer, Nate?
Actually, to cover on that as well, actually, Nexon just got a dragon and a thunder there from Rex, so his count now stands at 3 dragons and 2 thunders, which is very nice. But to answer your question as well in regards to the farm phase, generally I like to do a couple of Rex duels or a couple of dual Master K duels, to kind of boost the deck in terms of fusions or whatnot. So dual Master K, for anybody wondering, has the same exact deck as you. So generally speaking, from that, you can play any strong card basically in your deck for that matter. So like if you can't get over the first monster that Dual Master K plays, Dual Master K has a chance of fusing. And fun fact, in the instruction manual in the official game, it even tells you that if you want to learn more about how the game works, Dual Master K is actually the way to go because it teaches you more about fusions and stuff like that later on in the game. But the reason why I mentioned Dual Master K is because Dual Master K drops quite a bit of dragons and thunders in the drop pool, and those thunders usually I would say are more of a premium as opposed to dragons, because dragons they drop uh, like crazy on the last 3 duelists in a world tournament, that being Pegasus, Ishizu, and Kaiba. As evidence right there with Thug's drops there, he got 2 thunders, got both Penguin and Oslo Hero, so that's very nice.
That paid off pretty nicely, yes. And just to go on about the DMK, he cheats a little bit too. He has a bigger hand than normal, right?
Yes. So the one thing to mention as well is that other opponents in this game they usually have bigger size hands than what you normally have. So an example of that is that all duelists in the final 6 have a size card hand of 20. It may look like they have 5 cards in their hand, but they actually have a size hand of 20. So
Yeah,
usually you'll see the AI for those duels start from like the far left card in their hand. They actually are not playing the first card in their hand. They're actually selecting from a list of cards in their hand as well. So again, as I mentioned, the final 6 have a size hand of 20, so they could be picking for any cards from like 6 through 20 in their hand in that first slot. Uh, Slots 2 through 5 are actual slots there in their hand, so it depends on what the AI has in their hand. So it can be very problematic a little bit later on. So, and again, by evidence of it, the AI does cheat.
Yeah, and in the case for the DMK, as Nathan said, basically, if you can't make a fusion that beats your best card in your deck, it's because it's most likely that the DMK will set his best card because he has a huge pool to draw on. And with regards of the DMK and Rex, Rex has a better chance of dropping dragons, but in spite of that, his other drops are not so good, dinosaurs and such. In the case of the DMK, he drops a lot of good filler. We're gonna refer as filler now, cards that can make good fusions but are not THDD. So the DMK can make your deck more robust. But the Rex can give some big dragons, like Crawling Dragon number 2. So basically that's the points of of how the runners have to decide if they're gonna farm more Rex or if they're gonna farm more DMK, and the Thunders, of course. The chance for Thunders on DMK is pretty nice. And as Nathan said, Thunders are more of a royalty thing. They are harder to come by, so any Thunder drops that you get in the early game, it helps a lot. But I think I really like having some early dragons too, because even if you don't have a lot of Thunders, dragons can make some of the easiest fusions, and they are pretty strong overall, right?
Yeah, they are probably some of the best drops that you can get. Ooh, actually, I don't mean to interrupt there for a sec, but Thug just got some really good drops there from Rex. You got a Dragon Zombie, Wicked Dragon again, and an Electric Snake. So that was a pretty good drop pool there. Back on topic as well with the drops on Rex. So normally Rex only has what we call tier 2 dragons and does have the singular tier 1 dragon. So when I say tier 2 dragons are monsters that have 1600 attack or more. So in a situation in which you need to fuse Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, you need a 1600 material, whether it is a dragon or thunder, and then the other combination of that fusion to make Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. So when we say tier 1, again, less than 1600 attack, tier 2, 1600 attack or higher.
And I have to bring a news right here because Nexin just dropped a bear trap on Weevil, and
Ooh, that's
that
really
is
nice.
a relief, and that's a big relief for him. As I said earlier, some runners can get a bit unlucky and not drop any trap card whatsoever during the run, and have to go by with regular equipments. But now Nexin has a bear trap. It's not the best trap card in the world for doing attacks, but it works just fine. I mean, it's better if you have a wire trap, but because some of the monsters that Pegasus can set, they have low attack points and cannot trigger the trap card. But that's a big relief, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a pretty big relief as well. It is kind of a big deal. As you mentioned previously, traps are kind of difficult to drop at times. Sometimes they take a little long to drop as opposed to like dragons and other material cards as well. So the thing is with traps is that with Bear Trap works on monsters that have 1500 attack or less. Uh, Whereas with Vash mentioned, Vashon mentioned that Invisible Wire is probably the way to go. Usually it's a 2000 attack or less in which the trap activates. The other trap cards that runners will be looking for are Acid Trap Hole, which is 3000 attack or less, and Widespread Ruin, which eliminates any monster that attacks on impact.
Yeah, Widespread Ruin is just one of the strongest cards in the game. It is the strongest trap card in the game and the most useful during the run. We're gonna probably see more of it in the late game. But for now, what is important about trap cards is that we must have one that works consistently. Bear Trap is like the midpoint. There are some, some runners could try doing attacks with Eat Gaboon, and it's quite the memey attempt, but if you're desperate enough, you can try to make it work.
Yeah,
And, a
I've tried
two-navigator
doing that
can...
plenty of times myself, and it's not easy. So, like, literally, if we're the bare minimum that you Vegas's play, it's 2 navigator, and even then, that's very problematic.
Yeah. And in regards with ATAC, there's this thing in this tournament. It's a storyline that showed up. It's the ATAC on Shadi, and the runners were making promises like, "Hey, if I drop a Eat Gaboon during the World Tournament, I promise, I will make an ATAC on Shadi." For that sweet chance of dropping another Reigaki. And I think there was 2 attacks on Shadi during this tournament. 2 or 3. I can't recall.
Which is very interesting, because you don't see it happen that often.
But, there's a thing, like, the runners promised it, and there's one runner that promised it and failed to deliver. He didn't even attempt to do it, which was the KJJ.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very interesting.
So the chat was like, "Oh, come on, dude! You promised." And there's, and I mean, the chat has a preference for Nexin because there was some, as I said, some storylines forming during the tournament. Nexin has been he did cast some of the games during the tournament, the games, of course, in which he was not playing. And he got this bizarre, moniker that he's a jinxer. The people in chat like to call him neck zicker, which roughly translates as neck jinxer. So because during his cast, the players would have some bad luck, like not get some drops, attacks that brought nothing except for fake beasts, and some really hard modes during the final parts of the game.
Actually, that is a good thing to bring up as well. The terminology for fake beast. So basically, what that is that like they're a list of cards that don't fuse for specific monsters. Like, for example, if you try to fuse a specific beast with like a female material monster or a pyro or a Mars oriented monster, they don't make what you would expect it to make. So like examples of those cards include like Meotoko, Gatedeek, Larvis. What else did I
Vilme.
name? I'm sorry.
There's Wilme.
Wilmy. Yeah, Wilmy is another one. Digbeak is another one. There's a whole list of cards that you can look at also. And I think Tay I know has a good resource for that as well. And also Pocket Duelist I know is another good resource that you can check out.
Yeah, people in Brazil that has been learning the game, like myself, got a guide from one of the runners that listed a bunch of those, the most important ones. So there's one of the things of this tournament. A lot of content and a lot of Brazilian streamers started to grind this game. So a lot of knowledge has been diffused through the people and in the media of guides, written guides, and talks during live streams of each other.
That's the most important thing is that as a community as well, we share our guides with one another and kind of give a good analysis as to our thoughts on these kind of runs and help out maybe some new runners in the process as well. And while that's going on, it looks like Thug just got hit with a twin-headed Thunder Dragon fusion. I think this is on Bandit Keith, it looks like.
Bandit Keith, yes. Once again, I think the first THDD of the game was not from the runners. It was from Bandit Keith. I don't know. I have to check that. But
ironically enough, you might be right.
Yeah, during the losers final of the KJJ and Canets, it happened.
Oh my goodness! I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Nexon just got in more Thunder.
He got more Thunder. That's nice.
Yes.
Mega Thunderball. I think it was a drop from the starter deck. I mean, right?
Mega Thunderball fun fact
but he got Immortal,
is
I see.
Yeah, Immortal of Thunder. Yeah, you got 3 Immortal Thunders and a Dragon's
Wow.
actually good. My goodness. Anyways, Mega Thunderbolt is a buyable only card in this game. So, fun fact: there are some cards that you can only buy with star chips. And the reason being is because there are cards that are exclusive with star chips that don't drop on any duelists, but there are unobtainable cards in this game. So, fun fact: in Japan, this game was released in 1999 with a device called the Pocket Station, and the
Yes.
Pocket Station is like a little like mini game figure that you can double as a memory card as well. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories was one of the first games released for that.
Wait, why did Tug enter the 3D model? Okay, it was a misclick.
Yeah.
Because if people don't know, this game has 3D models. If you dual pressing square, you enter this arena mode where the monsters show up in 3D, in majestic 3D, by the way, and it's quite the show. But regarding the Mega Thunderbolt, it can occur in the starter deck, right? Because
Yes.
because there was this case. It was during the, by the way, the same match in which the KJJ faced off Kanitz in the losers final. He got 3 Mega Thunderbolts as a starter, and he didn't notice that exactly. He just processed it as, hey, I got 3 thunders. Let me just note it down. Got 3 thunders. And when he reached 30 plus starships, he thought, hey, I need to buy a thunder. I'll go buy a Mega Thunderbolt. And he bought a Mega Thunderbolt he couldn't put in the deck because it was already in the limit.
Yeah, it's just something you
So
don't see very often. Like with
it's
3 Mega Thunderballs, it's unfortunate because
it,
like the odds of starting with 3 of them are pretty low as it is.
yeah, it's one of the oddities of this tournament that has happened, and it's quite of the it's quite memey. It's something that people will remember and will probably mock in a sportive manner the KJJ for a little bit of time. And
Oh
by the
yeah, for
way,
sure.
we didn't talk about ranking in this game, right? About the ranks in the duels. I think it's important we talk about it
Oh yeah, that's
for the
definitely
people
a
that don't
very
know.
important thing. So there are 3 tier categories of drop pools that occur in this game. There is the S and A PAL. There is B, C, D PAL slash Tech, and then there's A and S Tech. So we essentially name those as like drop list number 1, drop list number 2, and drop list number 3. So basically, when we talk about, let's say, like S or A PAL, we basically look at like powerful cards that drop on SA PAL. So, like for example, on Meta Mage, there is a powerful card that you can win, probably the most powerful card that you can win yourself in the game. It's called Meteor B Dragon. And only I know Meta Mage is one of the few people that drops it. It's the most common drop in the game at a 20 out of 2048, or roughly about less than 1% odds of happening. Another thing also is that you can win powerful cards on S and A PAL called Skull Knight, Dark Magician, a bunch of other dragons and thunders that drop there as well. On BCD, PAL, or Tech, normally the runners will look for trap cards, they'll look for equips, other material monsters like dragons or whatnot to
Rituals.
add to their deck. And rituals actually can drop on BCD as well. Like for example, like hamburger recipe on Seto drops there. I think also
On
as well,
BCD.
like
I didn't know that.
yeah, on
I just
BCD
dropped it
rank.
on Apex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, BCD you can get it on like a couple of like High Mage Martis, the High Desert Mage, does
Mm-hmm.
drop a couple of rituals like Puppet Ritual and Construct the Mask, I know for sure.
Yeah, those I recall. Those I recall. But the hamburger recipe, I hadn't the opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, I know
Only
like
decks on Texas.
Seto in Egypt 1, I know it drops it for sure, but it doesn't happen very often. And
So
I'm
basically,
sorry, go ahead.
the strategy. Sorry. So basically, the strategy of the run, at least in the early part of the game, is it revolves a bunch around getting the right ranks in the duels. Right. I want to get S. I get a S or A on Rex, S or A on Mai and Keith, but on Shadi and Weevil, I want to get a BCD if possible. It revolves around much of this controlling the duel to get the right ranks. Correct.
That is correct. Yes. So the main thing that the runners always will look to do prior to achieving the rank that they need, they want to try and get to control the duel as quickly as possible, so that way they can control what rank they want to go for. So, like for example, if you want to go as fast as you can, but try to maintain a limit of what you want to play or whatnot, then there is that option of taking the S or A POW and the star chips with that as well. And then also the BCD rank, as I mentioned before, you can try to
Mhm.
go for like equips and other good cards that are game changers for your deck. So we'll see that a little bit later on when the runners go to like Pegasus, they go to Ishizu, Kaiba, etc. So they'll try to make their deck better and probably go for A-teching, which we will definitely see in this run.
And with regards of getting those ranks, it's the thing that becomes most I think important is learning the enemy deck, right? Knowing, okay, this enemy,
Yes.
it ranges his attack cards ranges from X to Y, so I can have this leverage. I need to do X fusion to control the board. So it's all about how I can control the board as early as possible, and so I can be safe to do the requirements of a S power, A power PCD. And
Oh my
in,
goodness. I don't mean to
and
interrupt you there, but
I
Nexon
was gonna bring it in.
just got the jackpot drop. Okay, so you mentioned the A-Tech on Shoddy earlier in the tournament. Nexon just got a Raigeki.
Yep. That's how life it is. Sometimes you do a discompromised attack on Shadi, and you reap the rewards like the Raigeki. So now
Wow.
that's a big thing, because in this game, in the starter deck is it has a, how can I say, fixed format. It drops monsters. Okay, it's random, uh, but it drops at least one equipment, and it drops at least one removal card, and it's 50% of chance of being Dark Hole or being Raigeki. Runners, of course, they prefer the Raigeki because it's easy, it's more reliable. It makes for fast duels to make the ranks too. Because I want to do BCD, I just need to discard a bunch of cards in Raigeki and do face damage. I win, easy, fast. So next thing, got a Raigeki. That's gonna help a lot. Don't doubt it.
Yeah, and usually
And
Raigeki is one of the most recommended to of A-teching. So yeah, Raigeki in sense to that destroys all opponent monsters on the field. So when used for A-teching, it's probably one of the most recommended cards to use for your magic activation. So I guess when we get to the point of doing A-techs, I can go ahead and explain the list of requirements that each runner will have to do. But one of those is definitely a magic card. Raigeki is probably the most recommended out of the two between both Raigeki and Dark Hole.
yeah, I think there's a chat command in the Speedruns Brazil that has the list of requirements. I'm just gonna copy paste it on the on here on DB chat. Just a second, so that it becomes visible for the people watching. But basically, let's see if I'm okay. I'm in the connection. So yeah, basically, the Apex is lower, as you can see. Thug is got the upper hand right now. He's on Pegasus, and next thing is doing Bakura. But since the ATAC paid off, it was worth it. It's a time loss that you can justify. And about Bakura, for Doug KJJ, Bakura was pretty quite a nice guy. No walls or any kind of thing. Because Bakura is the first literal barrier in the run, because he literally sets Labyrinth Wall, which is a card that has 3,000 defense points. And if you can't make a THTD with equipment, or THT with Umi as a field, or any kind of strong fusion with equipments like Crimson Sunbird, if you have a lot of Mystical Moon or other cards that go well with the Crimson Sunbird, it all removal. It can become pretty rough. It can become a pretty slow duel. And for both of runners, Bakuro was pretty nice guy. He just okay,
Oh yeah,
easy.
and it's also important to know about Guardian Stars as well. So it's one of the big things that most people have to know about is the Guardian Star system. So with the Guardian Star system, you have to kind of understand which monsters go with which. So an example of Bakura, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon has 2 Guardian Stars, and all monsters actually have 2 Guardian Stars in the game. Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon has the Guardian Stars of Pluto and Moon. So the Guardian Star system kind of acts like a rock paper scissors system, for example. So basically, in a duel against Bakura, you don't want to play Pluto against him, and the reason being for that is because both Millennium Shield and Labyrinth Wall from Bakura both have the Uranus Guardian Star, and Pluto basically is not good against Uranus, and the reason being is because during battle, the opposing monster that benefits from the Guardian Star system gains 500 attack and defense during the battle phase. So it's important to make sure that Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon is in during that duel, and the reason being is because you need the upper hand when it comes to the Guardian Star system.
Yeah, it's something that becomes part of the strategy as well. As we said, you have to know the cards the enemy can set and which guardian stars they have, uh, because based on that you have to set your THDD, as Nate said, on Moon or in Pluto. It becomes quite the apparent thing later on in the run and during those duels. By the way, a tech attempt on Pegasus right now, and he did set an MBD. Oh, am I crazy?
Yeah, that is an MBD start on Pegasus's end. So this might actually not be an ATEC here, considering that Meteor B Dragon is Pegasus's most powerful card in the chance of MBD actually being in Pegasus's deck is equivalent to a Gen 1 myth Pokemon, and that is a 1 in 256.
Yeah, that's quite the rough thing to do. Nexin just got a little bit unlucky, and it's something that can happen. And it brings us to talk about hard modes, which is something I guess we haven't we mentioned, but we haven't talked about it right now. But basically, there's this thing where the enemies can be, they can draw their stronger cards or just some pretty low level cards, and we runners tend to call that hard or easy mode. And some enemies have really specific tough cards to deal with. In the case of Pegasus, it's the Meteor Black Dragon. In the case of Ishizu, it's the Black Skull Dragon that she can set, which is the hard mode.
And then for Seto Kaiba, obviously his most common card, but definitely one of the most powerful cards is Blue Eyes White Dragon.
I wouldn't even call it a hard mode. It's just that he's annoying and he likes so much his dragons that it's the most common thing that he does. But yeah, it's considered by pretty much everyone. Seto 3 is the toughest enemy in the game, and how you have to deal with him.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And it's unfortunate for Nexin that he lost the duel, but it happens in this game, and it's not the end of the world. It's it's pretty common during race settings for runners to save the game after each duel. And in the case of hard mode from Pegasus, you just concede the duel. It's the fastest thing you can do. If he does a Meteor Black Dragon first round, you just attack it with the lowest card you can set on your board and go on with your life. And Thug decides to, just plow through the world tournament, because after he did Ishizu, he was hoping for a trap card. Ishizu can drop Widespread Ruin, and since he didn't got it, he could have take the option to farm before doing the Kaiba to get a trap card and do Atex outside of the campaign. But I guess he just decides to forget about it. Do Kaiba, see if Kaiba drops some trap cards. He can drop Acid Trap Hole, which is pretty good for attacking. And if I guess the runners like to see how the other runner is faring to take the decisions. There's no rule in the Brazilian tournament that prohibits the runners from seeing the stream feed, for instance, or just go directly to the opponent's stream to see what they are doing. So there's there's a lot of reacting during this tournament. Runners like to see a little bit, watch, and based on what happened during the game, based on what happened in the opponent, with the opponent, they make some decisions.
Yeah, and the general outcome for that as well is that most of this usually occurs during like the late game as well, where the opponents kind of think about their strategy moving forward, trying to think about what they need to do in regards to whether to go for final six, final seven, or continue farming. Some runners usually, like if they see an opposing runner go to the final gauntlet, they will either farm meta mage or they'll just be right behind them if they're not too far behind.
Yeah. And with regards with since now Nexing is effectively doing the ATAC, let's talk a little bit about it. So basically, as Nate said before, the ATAC is a list of requirements to get a specific rank at the end of the duel, which is the ATAC rank. And it's quite the chore, right? It's lots of requirements, and runners can get easily lost, isn't it, Nate?
Absolutely. And it like I mentioned before, it's a long list of requirements that have to be done. And usually there is a tracker that kind of keeps track of what to do during the ATEC. Usually experienced runners, they will keep track of it in their head or just they'll mark it down on like a notepad or something like that. But the requirements, as mentioned in chat, I will go ahead and read those off to you all. So you have to make sure that you use 37 or more cards in your deck. So you have to have at least 3 cards or less remaining in your deck at the end of the duel. You have to progress through at least 9 full turns in the duel, meaning both your turn and the opponent's turn. So once the opponent ends their turn, that counts as a full turn. 4 effective attacks. So effective attacks essentially means that your monster attacks an opposing monster in attack mode and deals life point damage to the opponent. 1 face down card. It can be a monster card or a magic/trap card that you can play on the field. You have to do at least 15 fusions. You can overlap other cards on the field and actually fuse them as well, and those will count towards a fusion. Like, let's say, for example, let's say a runner makes twin-headed thunder dragon, but they want to overlap it with fuse. Those fusions still count during the duel, and usually runners they will do that method in order to lure in the opponent with an effective attack. Essentially, you have to use 1 equip in the duel, and it has to actually work. 1 spell card, 1 trap activation, and you have to make sure you have less than 7,000 life points remaining in the duel. So all those requirements go into the scoring system for how Forbidden Memories calculates ranks for the most part. So back then, actually, there was a Japanese guide that essentially told us how to do ATEX or whatnot. It's just the old method we used to do was STEX. But now with the advanced method of how to do ATEX, we are able to essentially use this specific guide to make ATEX a lot faster and a lot easier, essentially. But
Yeah,
that's basically all the requirements.
that's basically the requirements. And just for note, those requirements, as said, are not set in stone like this. This is the most efficient way to do the ATAC. But sometimes, if you don't have a trap card and have other cards like lots of magics, lots of high defensive cards, you can go for other requirements. You can, juggle a little bit those requirements to get an ATAC. You can, use 4 magics, use a lot of trap card activations, use the concept of defensive win on in some attempts. In Pegasus, you can't do that, but on some other duelists, you can go for defensive wins to attempt the attack. So yeah, there are different ways, but the most efficient that you guys will be seeing from our runners is the 4 effective, 15 fusion, and what such. And by the way, it's good to talk a little bit about how those requirements have some equivalencies. Like Nate talked about, it has to go 9 turns complete. Sometimes the runners don't like to count turns. They use the number of cards Pegasus used for reference, because you know, if he uses 1 card each turn, you can deduct the amount of turns. But that only works if it doesn't do fusions. If he do fusions, you have to have a little bit. You need to be a little bit cautious. And the other thing is the about the amount of cards you have to use during the duel. It's the same thing as you have to leave your deck with 3 cards, which is what most runners remember. Like they internalize that information, which is easier to deal, I guess. And let's see what happens. What we got from the ATAC. I see 2 Megamorphs. Holy moly. That's a bit disconcerting, isn't it? How do you fight against this? How do you recover against 2 Megamorphs? That's what Nexin dropped in his ATAC. And by the way, this long farming method, which is the ATAC, is we didn't talk about the spoils of doing the ATAC, but now we just see it. We just have seen it, which is the Megamorph. The Megamorph is the best equipment in the game. It's an equipment that goes in any card. You can equip it to any card, and it will buff 1,000 points in attack and defense of that card. But there are other things that are good to drop on an ATAC, like WSRs, which is the Widespread Ruin, Bright Castle, Dragon Treasure, the DCJs, Dragon Capture Jars, and so on.
And that'll be the main thing that the runners will be looking for on this ATAC on pick.
Sorry, your voice did lag a little bit for me. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that'll be the main thing that for on Pegasus. Those drops that you mentioned, like Bright Castle, Megamorph, Dragon Capture Jar, Dragon Treasure, Widespread Ruin, and actually the rare drop that doesn't happen very often is Crush Card. Crush Card actually is another good removal that the runners could be looking for as well.
As you mentioned, the Crush card was dropped in this tournament during one of the attacks on Pegasus. It's as I said before, this tournament has had some of the biggest outliers in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh speedrunning. It was quite hype, but I can't recall in which match it was. But there was a Crush card from a Pegasus ATAC. And he can drop some thunders too. I think it's not Oscillo Hero. Kaminari Kozo he can drop, right?
No, it's Oscillo Hero. Oscillo Hero is actually his only thunder.
It's Oscillo Hero, okay.
Yeah, that's the only one.
I got a little bit confused, I guess.
No, that's okay.
And now TurkJJ is on Soldier Mage, and he's on Soldier Mage, right? And he's doing an ATAC on Soldier Mage.
No, he's on. Oh yeah, no, he's on Pegasus actually.
He's Pegasus, but why is the track?
I think he's on Pegasus. I'm very sure.
It's because there's a thing that started happening.
Oh, it is Mage Soldier. My mistake. Yeah, you are correct. My apologies.
That's right. I got a little bit confused too when I saw the Tomb Navigator, but I recalled.
Yeah, there's a lot to process with the game, so yeah.
So basically, what I was trying to say is that during the late parts of the tournament, there has been this trend of doing ATAC on Mage Soldier. If you don't get a trap card during the World Tournament, the runners will resort to doing an ATAC on Mage Soldier for a better chance of dropping Dark Energies. And they do it without a trap card using the defensive win mechanic.
Yeah, so another mechanic with that also is in the case of a defensive win ATEC, if you don't have a trap, there is an alternative of outside of Pegasus. So some runners will often do what's called the 2 defensive win ATEC, and basically you replace the trap card with 2 defensive wins. So basically, you put your monster face down in defense mode and hope that the opponent attacks into it and deals life point damage to themselves. They have to repeat this process twice in order for the defensive win attack to actually work. Now, fun fact, some runners actually would do this on Shoddy as well, as you can do a defensive win attack on Shoddy if you don't have a trap, of course. But it is a very unconventional method that most runners will use. You can even use it on Kaiba, because Kaiba can be faked out. And in the case of fake outs, the opponent usually will not attack sometimes. So yeah, there's that. And then there's also probably one of the worst ATAC methods that you could think of for vanilla runners, and even like some people even to 15 card use it as well. And that method is called the 7 magic trapless ATAC. It is probably one of the most complicated ATACs that you could think of ever.
Yeah, it's really cumbersome, and you need the right amount of magics, and you know, it's just a lot of drops. You have to have dropped a lot of fields, and yeah, it's not easy to incorporate into the route.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's really,
Well
I think,
that
a thing you do one time to see if it's true, because someone told you that's possible, and you, no, that can't be right. And then you do it, and okay, it works, but I'm never gonna do this again in my
Oh
life.
yeah, for sure. Like the one of the big complicated methods when to the 7 magic trapless method is that you have to go under 1,000 life points and hope that Pegasus does not top deck a Meteor B Dragon at some point during the duel.
Yeah, it's just too much risk. Too much risk. I
Oh
think
yeah, and
it's way better.
most runners that are advanced will do something like this.
Yeah, I think it's more on the safety to, just do some free duel on Ishizu or Pegasus and hope for a conventional trap card and go on with your life.
Oh yeah,
But
no doubt
yeah,
about it.
with regards with the about the run, I think Tug KJJ is on a pretty dicey situation for now,
Yeah,
because he got 3 Yumis, which is nice. It's okay, but it's not the best thing in the world. It's good to have field cards, but no equipments. No equipments is quite a tiresome situation, and the only way to make up for equipments is during doing ATEX on Pegasus or farming Pegasus BCD, Ishizu BCD, and
or even Mage Soldier
Mage Soldier.
BCD as well.
But it's quite the time loss, and by the in regards of how Nexin is doing and how he's faring right now, it's quite dangerous. I don't know what I would do in a situation like this, because
Yeah,
it's gonna become difficult for him to farm Metal Mage as well.
yeah, that's one
I
of the
mean,
big situations as well. Like having a play set of Umis, or even at least a mountain or other field spell cards or magic cards in this case, in your deck usually benefits greatly against the low mages, because what they do in free duel is that for a priority, if the low shrine mages have a field spell of their respective kind in their hand, then more often than not they will start with that turn one. So they usually put the field spell cards as a priority first before playing a monster or anything like that. So that's one of the real benefits of having Umi in the deck as well for later on if a runner decides to farm Meta Mage.
yes, yes, and it's one of the strategies of of dueling with the Metal Mage during the campaign, and the High Mage Kapura is having those good amounts of field cards. Preference Umi, because Umi can buff the THDD and buff nothing whatsoever else. And but if you can't have the Umi or mountains, you will just put some forests, wastelands, Yami on the deck just to remove the metal field from the fight. We'll talk about more later about that. So what happens now is that Tug is farming on free duel for a possible trap card. It is what he needs to do, right? I don't think he can progress further and have a real shot at the late game.
Yeah, like the main thing that Thug needs right now, or he is severely lacking equips at this time. He does have a widespread ruin that he got from Mage Soldier A-Tech, it looks like, uh, which does help in his case with A-Teching, but it is a very complicated process without the twin-headed Thunder Dragon equip. We're gonna see in just a second here if that does hold true and he's able to win a twin-headed equip on this A-Tech.
Let's see. And
There's one
uh,
Megamorph, widespread. Okay, that's not a bad A-Tech. One Megamorph and one Widespread Ruin for Thug.
I think that makes I would be relieved, because going from nothing to at least a chance of winning the game, I think it's way better.
Yeah,
Because
it's a great sigh of relief.
as it was standing, he had no equipment. It was really impossible for him to go for the final 6, final 7. But now with a Megamorph and it was other equipment I couldn't see. Sorry,
I
it was
think that's
Megamorph
his
and
only.
what else?
That's his only equip. It looks like. It started with laser cannon armor. Not the best equip to start with in terms of your starting deck, but he did get a Megamorph on that A-Tech, which is, as we mentioned, the best equip in the game.
Yeah, and with regards of A-Tech, we are on the A-Tech moment, so let's talk about those situations where runners are doing A-Tech. For instance, Nexing is doing an A-Tech on Kaiba, and the A-Tech on Kaiba, I think it's pretty valuable in his case, because during his A-Techs on Pegasus, he didn't drop WSR. I don't think he did drop DCJ. So the A-Tech on Kaiba can give a little bit more of removal and can give some equipments, which I think it's what he needs. He got Raigeki, he has double Geki, right? So,
Yeah, definitely.
but having a DCJ, having even warrior elimination, it's quite the contentions point during the community. The runners don't like warrior elimination a bunch. The KJJ is one of the main haters of the warrior elimination card, but Nexing actually defends it, quite likes it, and during his live streams and during interviews in after matches during the tournament, he was like, "No, I like the warrior elimination. It helps me against Kapura, blah 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 blah." So yeah.
It's really beneficial too against Gate Guardian and other cards as well. So another example that Meta Mage also mainly plays warriors, and that warrior elimination benefits greatly against them. Oh,
Crush
speaking
card,
of warrior elimination, there it is.
but there was a crush card over there also.
And yeah, and there
Uh,
was a crush card. That's huge, actually.
So Nexin has been getting all the tools from the toolkit that he needs to split open this diabolical game of Yu-Gi-Oh. So by the way, the title of the little trivia moment. The name of the tournament in Portuguese is Deus do Egito, which translates as God of Egypt. So the law behind the tournament is the person that wins the tournament is going to become the new God of Egypt and will be ruling, all over it. But nobody cared to, send an email or any kind of thing to, to the country to tell them about this new change of, political implications. But here we are. And by the way, this tournament has a prize. It's not an awesome prize, but it has been pulled from some people, from some participants. Some generous people donated to increase the prize pool, and there for the winner, I might be mistaken, but I heard from some of the moderators at Speedruns Brazil that the winner will also get a Millennium Puzzle.
Ooh, that's very nice.
Some of the viewers from, I think, was the charitable person to propose the idea and send one to the Speedruns Brazil staff. I'll try to verify this information later, but it's something that I heard from some of the admins.
That's very generous, and everybody that's participated in the tournament. It's been great watching all the tournaments, like several weeks or whatnot. And seeing a bunch of competitive action for Forbidden Memories always goes a long way. Like, for example, I also host what's called Forbidden Memory Seasons tournaments. I've been hosting the last 2 seasons. In fact, I'm the creator of the Seasons tournament for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories community. And we usually do 15 card as well. And we've had our fair share of big prize pools when it comes to like and a bunch of competitors speedrunning. So
Mhm.
this tournament is no exception as well. A great host of runners and a great community as well.
Yeah, and this tournament did give some life to the speedrun scene. A lot of people started running this game, uh, got got put more effort into it, learned the game, streamed a lot more, and some runners from different types of games like RPG speedrunners. Fel Wenger he mainly does RPG speedruns like Final Fantasy, and he started running Yu-Gi-Oh because of the tournament. He started learning the game beforehand, but it was basically for the tournament. My case as well. I wasn't a runner, or I speed Yu-Gi-Oh runner, but when I heard news about the tournament, some people said, "Hey, give it a try. Why you might like it? Maybe." Tried running the game, and well, it was quite a nice experience playing in it, commentating it. It has been awesome. I am mainly a wild guns runner, for instance, so it's really different. It's really different for me.
Yeah, and
But
as I
yeah,
mentioned before, not just and myself that I'm more known for speedrunning Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, but also I do a lot of other stuff as well from time to time. Like I mentioned previously beforehand, I also do Duels of the Roses speedruns as well, which is actually the sequel to this game for Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. And I do a lot of other variety stuff as well. So again, it's more of trying to get comfortable from where you're trying to start with, or trying to pick up on something else too.
yeah, it has it has revitalized. It gave more energy to the community. The community is more united, I would say. People are discussing more about speedruns. People are trying to learn more, and a lot of people that didn't know about speedrunning but that loved Yu-Gi-Oh went up and watched a lot of matches from this tournament. And because this is a game that has a lot of the fan base for this game is amazing. They are really passionate, and when they see someone learning the run or just knowing the game for the first time, they are pretty hyped up. They really like it a lot. So yeah. So basically, the runners are now in a situation, I would say, it's quite dire for. I mean, Tug hasn't dropped equipment except for the Megamorph, and Nexin has got 2 Megamorphs, 1 equipment, but he is not doing so great in regards to Thunder. He has 7 Thunders, the KJJ has 9. I mean, it's not that big of a difference, but it's a difference. Sometimes with this low amount of Thunders, you don't draw THTT that frequently, and it can be troublesome.
Yeah, and that's the one thing as well. Like, and one thing we forgot to mention, the uh the buildup of starships. So as you mentioned before, like the runners can buy cards with uh an accumulation called starships. So basically, with starships, is that you can buy specific cards using your currency basically, and the runners more often than not will opt to buy thunders because thunders they're pretty low starship costs and they're much more significant when it comes to building the deck for twin-headed thunder dragon fusions.
Yeah,
Ooh, nice. That was
and
a dark energy there for Nexon.
I think it was, yes, a dark energy for Nexin. And with there's this difference. We haven't been talking so much about differences in strategies regarding the vanilla game and the 15 card game. Because the way you deal with starships on 15 card is way straightforward, right? It's just okay, you got the starships, buy some thunder, buy some thunder. whilst in the vanilla game, you have to think a little bit more. You have to buy some Umis sometimes. You have to buy some dragons sometimes. So, and I mean, a lot of the runners, I guess, came straight. Uh, they learned the run straight for 15 card, not vanilla. Some runners have some of the runners are vanilla runners, like Komari, and Tug does some vanilla runs sometimes on Fridays or Saturdays. I can't recall correctly, but there's this strategies that are a little bit different from the vanilla, and that's why sometimes we during the cast during the commentary we would talk about how some players were more daring, were risking it more because they had this background, they know more about Star Guardians, they know more about percentages and when to YOLO and when not to YOLO during some duels because of the vanilla experience.
Yeah, and usually, like most runners that have played 15 card as well, not just in some runners in the past have played vanilla, which, for those that don't know, is it's only one card per duel instead of the 15 that you're accustomed to seeing in these kind of runs. So it's very more of like trying to be patient with what you're trying to win or be. But ultimately, it's not an easy process at all because you have to grind through hours and hours of farming on both Ishizu and potentially Pegasus as well when you're A-teching.
Yes, as I like to say, the 15 card mode makes the game more dynamic. You have to grind less. There's still some farm, but your farm has to be more, efficient. You have to incorporate it into the campaign. For instance, one of the main things is dropping a trap card during the campaign, so you can do an attack during the campaign duel on Pegasus, during the campaign duel on Kaiba if it's within your PB attempt, your goal. So yeah, whilst the vanilla game, you have to know more about some fusion, some Star Guardians. You have to know more details because since you have less resources, you have to do Cybersaurus, for instance, for crying out loud, to deal with some things on the world tournament,
Yeah.
and you grind more, sure, that you repeat all of the duels, but since you repeat all of the duels, you get to learn more about the enemy deck, what works and what doesn't work, for achieving the BCD ranks, the A rank, S rank poll, for instance. And Nexing has started doing the mages, from what I can tell.
Yeah, Nexon is on the first High Mage, it looks like. High Mage Sequitin. The strongest card that they have in the deck is Crab Turtle, which is boosted on the Umi field. It has 3,050 attack, 3,000 defense. And actually, High Mage Sequitin is not really that hard. Just if you don't draw the right cards at the right time, it can be a little troublesome. Just right now, actually, Thug is starting to catch up a little bit. You've got double Bright Castle and Megamorph on that last Atex, so it's now a race.
Now it's a race, definitely. It's gonna be down to how the Metal Mage farm goes on and how the final 6, final 7 will be for them. Because
Oh yeah,
there's a thing in this tournament, because since a lot of the runners are new to the game or started running recently, some the KJ and Nexing is not the case. They are more seasoned runners, but during the earlier phases of the tournament, none of the runners used or even knew the details on how to do a final 6. They just okay, got my things, I got my farms, got my megamorphs, my MBDs. I'm just gonna stroll through this Kaiba guy, settle 3, Haishin second, and so on. But from the second part of the tournament onwards, there has been more presence of final 6 from runners knowing the final 6, and the debate about the final 6 became more prevalent with regards of, is it worth doing final 6? You like, what's the benefits of doing final 6? What are the risks of doing final 6? Because sometimes you don't have a robust or really strong deck to do the final 6 in a safe manner. You enter the lab mage and you go to settle second and you fail, you die, and that's a time loss.
Yeah, that's one of
So
the big risks as well. Like with the big risk comes a big reward. So if you defeat Seto second during that attempt to defeat both Lab Mage and Seto second, you don't have to fight Labyrinth Mage again in the final 7. So essentially, it becomes final 6, in which you just go from Sebek onwards all the way down to Nightmare. So with high risk comes high reward.
yeah, and in the case of the final gauntlet, the final gauntlet is, statistically speaking, you're gonna fail, right? Because Sato third is really not that great of a guy. He likes his dragons way too much. So the ultimate dragon is it's a pain. And Nightmare can also set the ultimate, and sometimes he doesn't even set the ultimate but wins the duel anyway because you had a bad hand. Tough luck.
Yeah. So
And anytime.
statistically speaking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're just gonna compliment what I was saying. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So statistically speaking, on the potential of third playing his most powerful card, which is Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Yes, it is a standalone card in this game. Same thing with like Gate Guardian, Meteor Bee Dragon, Beast Skull Dragon, etc. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. The odds of that happening on turn 1 are roughly about 57%, which is really, really high considering that it is the strongest card overall in the game. It is absolutely crazy how often, more than not, Seto third does decide to play ultimate turn 1.
So yeah, having a way to mitigate the time loss of the final 7, which is the final 6, is a pretty big reward for doing a little bit of route, going a little bit of route. Because anytime you fail you did. Let's assume that you've done final 6. You did settle second. You've cleared. You're now on the final 6 route. Each time you fail the final 6, you're gonna have to do one duel less. If the enemy hasn't done the final 6 route, each time he fails the final 7, you're gonna have a big advantage. It's a dual advantage. With this dual advantage, the time of a duel, you could do some metal farm, for instance, to get some immortals of thunder, get some high cards like spellcasters, dark magician, skull knight, or even the coveted meteor black dragon. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing
Yeah.
that we'll kind of keep our eyes on as well and see if the runners decide to go through that route.
Oh, and by the way, since chat mentioned, there's this thing with flex cards, I like to call them, which is cards that are not exactly that type, like the Dragon Zombie, for instance. The Dragon Zombie is a zombie card, but it works as a dragon card. There's the Blast Juggler, that is a mechanical card, but works as a pyro also.
Right.
So because of those flex cards, there are some interactions that are a bit unusual for the game. You have to be careful because some of these cards you kind of carry to the late game, like Dragon Zombie. You can have a Dragon Zombie on your deck because it's a tier 2 dragon, but the Dragon Zombie doesn't mix well with the dragon. It becomes a skeleton. It doesn't fuse into a THDD. So you have to be careful. Crawling Dragon number 2, which is pretty common as well. During the early game, mid game, you're gonna have a lot of. You can still have some robots on your deck, some mechs. So a Crawling Dragon number 2 will not fuse into a metal dragon with the mechanical card. It's gonna fuse into a Cybersaurus because the Crawling Dragon number 2 is actually a dinosaur that can standing as a dragon.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
was just about to mention that as well, but glad you were on top of that.
yeah, it happened with some of the runners we have right here on the screen, and they became pretty vocal about it. They quite hate it a lot. So when those kinds of things happen, so
Yeah.
that's how the hate for the Cybersaurus stemmed up for some people. But I actually like the Cybersaurus. When I last year I decided to play some casually Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. want to play this game. I want to remember how it is, and I remember that this game is hell. And
Yeah,
in
that's
the
exactly what
beginning,
it is.
and in the beginning, one of the only fusions that I remember to do consistently was the Cybersaurus. So I got quite fond of it. I like the Cybersaurus. And other card that I assume to hype a little bit, but it's nothing. It's nothing special. It's the God damn it! I totally forgot the name. It's a winged card. Scalangel. I like the Scalangel because when I was running vanilla for the first time, my deck was filled to the brim with Scalangels, and I was doing Gavas right and left, and it made me safe. I got comfy doing some Gavas with Scalangels, so I like
Yeah,
Scalangel
and
as
there's
a
quite a
card.
bit of cards that are pretty good with fusing as well. So yeah, that's just something that it's something to take note of as well when it comes to specific cards.
Exactly. And by the way, the runners, third KJJ just beat a Tenza. And I think next thing is starting Mountain Mage, Lower Mage right now.
Actually, they're on
Because
a Tenza as well.
he's on a Tenza as well. Okay.
Yes.
Because he did Desert Mage beforehand,
Yes.
I think. Right. Because
I
here's the
think they've.
thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just a little bit of trivia again. Because since we talked about Metal Black Dragon before, how it drops on Metal Mage, it can actually drop on the Mountain Mage, on the lower Mountain Mage, but it's a really flimsy odd. The odds are really
Hmm.
shallow,
It's actually
and
a 1 in 1,024 chance. It's a 2 out of 2,048, which is the lowest odds in the game.
yeah, it's pretty rare. And the other thing that is rare that a lot of the runners, including myself, don't believe until we see with our very own eyes is the Meteor Black Dragon that Atenza can set. I've never seen it, so I totally don't buy it. But
I can
some
count
runners are
on one
inflated.
hand that actually I've seen it. I actually recently, probably like a few months ago, I actually had a top deck Meteor B Dragon actually happen out of nowhere in one of my 15 card PB attempts.
That's gotta hurt because this guy he doesn't he isn't the problem. Atemza, he is regarded as the most difficult of the higher mages of the, I like to separate the mages in two groups, the easier ones and the harder ones. And from the easier ones, he's the hardest, Atenza. But it's
Right.
not that big of a deal. He can just put a BSD on your face, and since it has mounting advantage, it becomes a really huge card. But it can be solved. Sorry, I need to mute myself a little bit.
So yeah, on coverage on that as well with High Mage Atenza. So Beast Skull Dragon does happen pretty frequently, not like all the time, but it does happen. And the thing is that if you have like one equip with Twin Headed Thunder Dragon to get over that, I mean you're basically fine for the most part. But MBD on High Mage Atenza is a 1 out of 2,048 chance of that happening. So it can happen. Oh my gosh, Thug just got a Toon Alligator. It's a little off topic, but Toon Alligator is a 2 out of 2048 on low meta mage.
But it's worth notice.
Yeah.
It's quite the beloved card, and it has happened in the tournament during the earlier stages. I recall some Tomb Alligators being dropped, and the Tomb Alligator is quite the beloved card. He's a Tomb, he's an alligator. He's
Right.
quite he's quite cute. He's quite cute. So the community, the Brazilian community, has given him a nickname in Portuguese, which doesn't make sense to translate but it's basically like it's Tom Jacarezinho, which means alligator Tom, like a name from a person, but has the same sound as Toon. Some not the same sound, but close. So people call him Tom Jacarezinho because it's more it rolls a little bit better on the tongue for the Brazilians.
Right.
And there's this thing also from this tournament. Since we in Brazil we got the the 4Kids cut of the Yu-Gi-Oh Monster Duel show, we had a lot of the things that the Americans had during watching the anime, the cuts, the nonsensical stuff like guys pointing guns when they don't have guns on their hands and so on, and the duel thing, which is the opening. Those are things we share as well. But there's a special kind of thing, which is the translations, because for some bizarre reason, the people that did the translation for the show, maybe they didn't know English that well, or I don't know what happened, but basically the Great Moth in Brazil actually was translated as Grande Boca, which translates back to big mouth. So yeah, people
Oh my gosh.
mistook moth for mouth, and in Brazil we have Weevil saying, "This is my greatest mouth." Like in Brazilian, imagine that in Brazilian, right? So it's quite the shock. Like you see this giant moth appearing on the TV, and the guy is saying, "I just have this big mouth," and I'm not talking about my tirades I'm doing
I
against
mean, you're not wrong.
And so there's this Brazilian, I don't know, inside joke about the
Oh yeah.
translations. So during the tournament, we've been doing some purposefully bad translations of some cards, like the Curse of Dragon, because curse sounds like course in the meaning of a teaching course. So we've been calling the Curse of Dragon the Dragão Fatec, which Fatec stands for a university in Brazil, a
I
technical, a
see.
polytechnic.
That's a pretty
So
known fact. While that was going on, unfortunately, Nexon took a death on High Mage Kripura, which is very unfortunate.
well, it can happen. Here's the good thing. Here's the beauty thing about this game. Even if you have all the resources in the world, like 2 Raigekis, 2 Megamorphs, you can still get flabbergasted by
Oh yeah.
Kapura, by the final 6, final 7 enemies.
Oh, yeah.
So
RNG is very, very cruel, and no matter if you have a good deck or probably you're the worst deck, RNG always becomes a crucial factor in these runs.
yeah, as you get your deck more and more robust over time, you can just cycle things, throw away your initial hand to cycle for more cards, and usually you can resolve the situation. But RNG can be troublesome, and yes, sometimes you cycle and you get nothing. And it happened during the tournament. The case of Nightmare being easy mode for Kanitz, which was the 3rd place. He got an easy mode on Dark Knight. Dark Knight, it started with Trihorned Dragon. Trihorned Dragon, I guess the name of the card, right?
Yeah, Trihorn Dragon is definitely one of the cards that can be played. As we see a Skull Knight drop there from Doug, that's actually really nice.
That helps a lot because the Skull Knight is one of the really versatile cards that he can use to
Boom, Skull Knight for
deal with
Nexon.
the later parts. To deal with the later parts of the final 7. And sorry, what did Nexin drop?
Nexon also got a Skull Knight.
Oh, that's fine. That's pretty cool. Because with the Megamorphs and regular equipments that can be used on him, he can become quite big. And since he has one of the Star Guardians that is the weakness of the Ultimate Dragon, he can be used to solve the Ultimate Dragon if perchance you draw the right cards in the first hand. So yeah. So they are doing Metal Farm right now, if I'm not incorrect, I think.
Yes, they are both doing it. It looks like because Nexon went the campaign to unlock Metamate, and it looks like they follow each other towards the farm.
So yeah, so let's talk about Meadow Farm. Meadow Mage is the guy that is most farmed in all of the universe. People that casually play this game tend to learn, from word of mouth, from guides. I don't know. During the good years where the internet was not a prevalent thing, you'd have to learn it on GameStop people, or I don't know, because here in Brazil the culture of game houses, like I like to say, people that bought video games and rented for hour. So people tended to clump in these places and form friendships and trade secrets of the of the art of gaming. So
Pretty much.
the fact that Metal Mage drops MBD is a well-known fact for a bunch of players that like the game, and so he's the most farmed guy. And in regards to the farm itself, you need to get S or A PAL on him, and to do that, as Nate stated earlier, you can do some manipulation using the feud cards, because as said previously, if he has a field card on his hand, he tends to prioritize the use of it if there's no field active at the moment.
Right, and
So
another thing to mention on top of that as well is that to maintain your good rank for an S or A PAL, you absolutely have to make sure that you stay at least 28 cards or higher remaining left in your deck. And you have to make sure you have a good amount of life points left. Like at least 7,000 or higher is usually the requirement in order to achieve that good rank as well. Or just not use too many equips or anything like that. Or not even do a face down card for that matter as well. So doing minimizing some of those methods can easily give you a good rank.
yeah, and you have to think about these requisites. In you will be slower, but it's worth to be slower sometimes if you can get the S rank or A rank, because Metal Mage has really some good drops. Even if he doesn't drop his Cool Knight or an MBD, he can drop some Immortals of Thunder, and he can drop some tier 2 dragons that can make the deck more rotative. You can fuse the THDD more easily. You will need less resources,
Yeah,
because
and on top of
during
it as
the
well.
yeah, and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna finish on the fact that during the Egypt 2, the runners tend to deck build a lot towards spellcaster and water to do the thunderless version of the THDD, but the Metal Mage farm actually helps a lot to drop some thunders and drop some big dragons, so you can more easily do your THDD.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to bring up as well is that winning all the from Meadow Farm kind of helps with fusing it later on in the final six. Considering that you're mainly going to be tossing cards for mainly equips and maybe traps or removal later on. So that's going to be one of the big things when it comes to. Yeah, it's going to be one of the big things when it comes to later on with the final gauntlet.
Mm-hmm. Because if you can make a twin-headed thunder dragon with 2 cards, that creates a space for your cycling, so your hand can have THDD 2 cards, 2 equipments, and boom, you're set to defeat Haishin, for instance,
Yeah,
Haishin
pretty
7.
much.
In and the opposite would be, oh, I don't have big dragons and I don't have a lot of thunders, and I need to at least and to do a THDD I need to draw 4 cards, so that takes a lot of space on your hand, because you can do the twin-headed thunder dragon with spellcaster and water cards to make the fusion, because there is a specific fusion in this game. The fusions work by the type of the cards, right? But there are some fusions that are, set in stone. They are specific. If you fuse a dragon with a time wizard, you will always you can only get the 1,000 dragon this way, with the time wizard card and then a dragon. And there's the Kaminari attack, which is a thunder card. You can make this card by fusioning a Spike Sidra with a spellcaster. So this way of doing a THDD when you don't have pure thunders, like a thunder card, is called thunderless, and is it's pretty useful when you don't have the resources and in vanilla. But in 15 card, we want to stop doing thunderless as soon as possible. And I think Tag is going for the final 6.
Does maybe look like it. I'm not sure. I know they're going to Labyrinth.
He didn't beat Anubisius.
Yeah, so it looks like possibly a set of second attempt here from Thug.
And the people are asking about the Cocoon of Evolution fusions.
Oh boy, one of the
It's really tough.
what we call glitch fusions in the game. So there are actually what's called glitch fusions that exist in this game. There's like a small handful that we know about. So like for example, one of them is Cocoon of Evolution, and Cocoon of Evolution actually cannot be obtained as a drop. It can only be obtained by a fusion. So there are multiple ways to actually fuse for that card, and it is absolutely ridiculous how you have to do it. So, fun fact, you could do like an example like Ansatsu plus Lamoon as one of the fusions that makes Cocoon of Evolution. There was a meme back in the day from a runner by the name of Saboom, or better known as SSBM stuff. He accidentally fused Cocoon of Evolution in one of his duels against, I think it was against Weevil or against Rex, I'm not sure. But he accidentally fused Tiger X, which is a fusible only card, and then fused that with Darkfire Dragon to make Cocoon of Evolution.
Oh, I've
And
seen this
he
clip.
didn't
I've
realize
seen.
it until like later on. Like, oh, so that's how you fuse it. But there are
Yes,
four
I've
ways to
seen.
actually fuse it.
I think the wiki has a lot of information about fusions and whatnot. I think it's stated in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories wiki. I
Yeah, in the
recall
wiki,
doing a
and
little bit of
also
dive.
like
But,
if you have any questions as well, and this is also for everybody in the chat as well. Uh, we have a official Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories Discord server. If you are more than welcome to join that. If you have any questions pertaining to Forbidden Memories speedrunning, or if you just are interested in checking out some of the content that Forbidden Memories has to offer, feel free to stop by and ask questions, or if you're interested again in learning the game, you can talk to one of the speedrun.com moderators or just server moderators like myself, and we'll be glad to get you on the right track.
yeah, join the community. One of the greatest ways to get involved in this amazing hobby that is speedrunning and learn more about a specific game that you love is join the communities. May it be Discord or some kind of forum. People usually nowadays it's Discord, but there people can help you a lot since you're starting, give you tips, point the way to tools. If in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance, there's the card tracker, calculators for attacking. So there's a lot of resources and guides and those kinds of things that you can check over on the Discord and discuss with the people, talk with the people to any doubts that can appear during the process of learning. It's normal. It's okay to have questions. People will be obliged to help. They will love it.
Yeah, and that's one of the big
Uh,
things when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories is the community is always they're welcome in terms of like helping other new runners or helping other runners that have been down this road before to come back to the game and kind of de-rust, if that makes sense. And all the resources, the guides and everything, not just in the Discord server, but also on speedrun.com, usually have a pretty good analysis on what to do in terms of whether it's your first time speedrunning or you're returning to. That's definitely one of the best things in terms of how our community is so diverse and so welcoming in terms of new speedrunners coming in.
Yeah, and since this is a game that is really that has a lot of theory behind it, it's less mechanical in a sense than if you consider other games like platform games for speedrunning.
Oh
Since
yeah.
there's a lot of information you have to learn, and I'm not gonna say just copy paste into your brain. Like you get the hang of it. It seems tough in the beginning. How do runners keep track of so many fusions? How do they know that this makes this can make that thing? A lot of practice and a lot of help from the people that want to that are upstanding to the community. They really help a lot.
And easily one of the big things that I can always say as well is that when you watch a lot of the runners that speedrun this game, I would also maybe say like if you want to get engaged into like racing against other newcomers or other speedrunners as well, definitely take the time to kind of understand how they usually play the game from a speedrunner's point of view, because it is one of the most important things ever, considering that this game can be very complicated your first time playing it if you're new or if you're just returning.
Yep. As we said, this game is quite cruel. So we have to pull all of our resources to help new people and people that want to de-rest, because
Absolutely.
it is cruel. It is cruel. The later segments in the
Oh
game.
yeah. And this game has had its notorious moments, no doubt about.
But I think it quite pays off. This is the thing I like about running this game. You started. There's a lot of information, but you can start pretty chill, not worrying too much about your time goals. I just want to finish the game. Let's try that first. Let's see how much time it will take of my life to just finish the game.
Yeah.
And as you're finishing, as you have just this goal of finishing, you start getting the hang of it. Like, okay, in this duel, I can set this card in this specific garden star, and it will be fine. I don't have to worry. Now I've dominated the board. It's okay. It's fine. What can happen here?
Oh
Top
yeah.
deck that. So and when you can sometimes I think this is one of the best feelings in this game. Sometimes you're put against the corner during a duel with one of the toughest enemies, like Anubisius Brazilian mage, which Capura Brazilian mage because of the colors. It's something that people like to tell that Capura is the Brazilian mage because he's green and yellow, his attire.
Yeah.
So when when your back is against the wall in a duel and you think it's over, but you risk it something a little bit crazy and it pays off, and you get the duel with like 15 life points hanging on your back. It's quite the feeling. When some of the crazy things happen in the game, like the suicide glitch that can happen sometimes when you have low HP, and it's quite the show to see.
Yeah,
It
it can be
happened
pretty
2 times
wacky when
during
it
this
happens.
tournament. It happened 2 times during this tournament. The suicide glitch, and it was during the final six slash final seven.
Yeah, and I
So the
guess I
chat,
can.
yeah. So the chat was really without understanding what was happening. Like a lot of interrogation marks appearing on chat. People were what the hell did Dark Knight just give up on life? I don't know. So yeah.
So yeah, I guess I could kind of explain how that. So, with the self-destruct glitch, actually, it does occur in a specific method. So, take for example, like if you have a very remaining, uh, the one thing that the opponent will not look at in terms of what you have on a specific card are usually either equips or guardian stars. So in an example would be like Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon has 2,800 attack points. So we're going off of base attack points here. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon has 4,500. So if you're under, let's say, like 1,700 life points, which would be the difference between both attack cards, the AI thinks that they have enough for lethal, And without looking at like a guardian stars, usually with the coding in the system, the AI will attack with that specific card and thus enabling the self-destruct glitch.
Yes, and it's quite the same principle behind what we do to guarantee magic lock during the later during
Yeah,
the final gauntlet in the game. It's the same
yeah, same
principle as
method
the
applies.
self-destructive glitch. The method that applies because I mean we didn't talk much about it, but you guys, if you guys have been paying attention, the enemies haven't been using much of magic cards during the duels, and that's because we are actually locking them out of using the magics. There are two basic ways we can, do this trick. That is the magic lock. One of them is just, dominate the board. If you have a monster that is strong, and you always destroy the monster that they put, leaving them with no monsters on the side of the board, the enemy will always choose to set a monster because they need to defend the health points. So it's what happens during most of the run. The enemies don't use magic because you're just dominating them. And the other way of doing the magic lock is making your enemy believe if a monster you have in your side of the board is weaker than the monster that the enemy has, it will prioritize setting another monster to overpower you. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaking my words here.
I believe that is true. Yes.
So because of this little glitch that happens with regards to the AI checks for your attack points, the base attack points, they do not consider equipments. You can trick the game having a really powerful monster on your side. That, for instance, a twin-headed thunder dragon that has 2,800 base attack, but with a megamorph can go over 3K800,
Hmm.
3,800. So you can trick the game of thinking, oh, it's just a THDD. I'm gonna put some. I'll just set another monster to overpower him. But wait, I can attack him because actually I can't destroy it. But okay, I'll just set more monsters and
And I
go
want
on
to
with my
add
life.
one thing on top of that as well. This does not apply to when you play your field spell cards. So, an example, like if you play Umi, but you're facing off against like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, for example, the Magic Lock rule does not apply to that specific card, considering that the opponent can see that your monster is boosted on the field spell. So, that's the only exception that does not apply.
And the magic lock has some bizarre behavior with regards to equipment. If I'm not correct, even if you have the enemy magic locked, for instance, Haishin second can sometimes set some megamorphs. If I'm not,
Yeah,
uh,
and it's one of the worst situations. Magic Lock does not apply to equips, but it does apply to pure magics. The only other exception I think that does not apply to, I think, would be like life point healing cards, I believe. It's like an example would be like Soul the Pure, Dien Keto the Cure Master,
mhm,
stuff like that. And I think also life point burning cards also don't apply to that rule too.
yeah. If you, as Santorio said on chat, if you if you're 1,000 HP less, you're in a pretty dire situation against Dark Knight because he will, just shoot some fire up you.
Yeah, it's
And
one of
by
the
the
worst
way,
situations.
talking about Final 6, Final 7, and Magic Lock, the runners are now both at Neku. And just to explain a little bit the split on Nexin, Neku free, it's because it became the standard knowledge during the tournament. And to anyone watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories 15 card speedruns, that Neku is really easy. But despite that, a lot of the runners during their attempts, their PB attempts, they tend to fail a lot on Neku for some bizarre reason. Maybe they misplay it, maybe they are unlucky, but it happened more than once that during a good PB attempt, the attempt was destroyed because of Neku. So there's this meme that Neku is free each time the runners are facing Neku because there's a possibility that something bizarre is gonna happen.
Right.
That's just it.
Yeah, the thing is with
And
that as well is that Neku, like the big problem with runners is that either they don't draw a twin-headed thunder dragon with the equip, or they don't draw the field spell cards that they need to force Neku to play Yami right back.
yeah, the way to deal with Neku is that if you don't draw a field card, because what makes Neku so strong is the Yami field. So if you don't draw a THTD, if you don't draw a THTD with equipment, or if you don't draw a field really early on, you can get overpowered by his cards because his most common
Ooh.
card is a Skull Knight.
Speaking of Haishin second, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but Nexon just got a very, very good draw against Haishin turn 1. Skull Knight, as we mentioned previously, is boosted on Yami, and is one of the few cards that benefits on the field. But because of the Yami field card and the Megamorph draw, this is a very easy win. And he might SA POW here. So, talking about some of the drops that Haishin has dropped here, Haishin can drop a bunch of rare cards at a 4 out of 2048. One of the cards is actually Meteor B Dragon.
Yeah, it's a possibility that he could get a MBD if he does the S or A PAL on the Haishin second.
Which at this
And
point is 100% confirmed.
right. And if let's just gather our information just to be sure. Next thing is doing final 7, and Thug is doing final 6.
That
Correct?
is 100% correct. Yes. So that's what I
So
forgot to mention as well, is that Nexon doing final 7. So if Nexon loses, he has to go all the way back to Labyrinth. That is a lot of time loss. Whereas with Thug, if he loses, he just goes to Sebek, which is not as much time loss. It's about at least a 2.5 minute handicap, if that makes sense.
and I think Thug KJJ just
Ooh.
got a little. It's a little bit relieved now because he did draw the Megamorph and did a THTD with it. 3800 is enough to deal with the cards Haishin second has.
Yes.
His strongest card is the Gate Guardian, so it's pretty okay. By the way, during the start of Neku, if I recall correctly, I was watching, both runners were synced. That was the level of how close to each other they are. They were synced. They
Oh,
did
yeah.
the THTD at the same time.
Oh, my.
And at the same time, the card turned over on the screen when
So
there's a little flip.
Nexon just got an easy mode on Seto third. He just got an MB.
Oh, that's pretty nice. Nexin, I bet Nexin waked up early today to do a little bit of praying to the gods of Yu-Gi-Oh, the gods of the cards, RNG, because Seto third, as we said, has a 57, roughly a little bit over that percent of setting a ultimate Blue Eyes White Dragon on the first turn. So right now, since it's an easy mode, the only thing Nexin has to worry about, what is the second? It's the Meteor Black Dragon, the second strongest card from Seto
That's the third, actually.
So the only thing he has to care now is, building something strong and maybe having a removal at hand, because there's still a roughly 4% chance of Seto third top decking the ultimate, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's about, I think it's either 4 or 6%, but roughly about the same percentage there, in which Seto third can top deck ultimate each turn. And again, usually we look for the card on the left, in which the AI will pull from for a potential top deck.
That's right. And he has a Skull Knight that is pretty buffed, but in which Star Guardian did he set the Skull Knight? He got advantage.
He set it in Mercury.
He
Well, he has a Blue Eyes Ultimate Killer now, so now he's going to be magic locking Seto third for essentially the rest of the duel here.
Yep. Until he draws a removal or anything, or another card that can beat the MBD. I mean. and
Mhm.
Thug just started a set of 3 and he got the Gate Guardian, but he used a lab wall to tank it beforehand. He has 2 lab walls in the deck. That's pretty smart, and not gonna lie. Having the lab walls on the deck at this point of the game.
Ooh,
It,
Thug
it,
also getting an easy mode here. It is literally neck and neck right.
it's neck and Thug, man. Come on. It's not neck and neck, it's neck and Thug. I mean, but yeah, it's a really close race. They are really close to each other. It's neck and neck. And sorry about the little punsies, I would say. Anyway,
No, it's fine. Puns are perfectly okay in the.
but yeah, now I mean, with both runners having a pretty nice lead instead of 3. Uh, the thing they need to concern themselves about is only Dark Knight and Nightmare. And what is the gimmick about Dark Knight? Some people find him a little bit of a nuisance.
Oh,
An
before we
ultimate,
get to that,
okay.
that was an ultimate. That actually is huge. Because now, essentially, this is giving Thug a chance to take the lead here going into Dark Knight. But on
Yeah,
topic
because
with the gimmick of Dark Knight here, Dark Knight basically has a gimmick in which if you can't get over the first monster that he plays, usually you'll see a lot of magic, no, not magic, but a lot of trap cards that are played in the back row. And Dark Knight has a lot of them. Sometimes he'll start lower than. I've seen him start as low as like Rock Spirit, which is a 1600 attack spellcaster.
well, that's pretty easily beatable. But yeah, I think in the tournaments, let me just take a look at the set list right here. Because Dark Knight, I think someone talked about Togex. I think it was we had some Togex start for the Dark
Definitely
Knight during the
possible.
tournament. Yeah, it's possible. It's just that is 0.0027%, which is roughly a over 4,000 appearance. Like in 4,000 duels, it can happen one instance of Togex based on the simulations. And since the duel the Nexin had was really he had to take care. It was low because he had to keep magical lock and keep drawing cards. He almost decked out, by the way. He was at 5 cards at the end, I think 4 cards.
Yeah.
So Thug did get ahead. So
Yeah.
and
So
Thug did
essentially, because of that long duel, would give Thug the advantage here. And again, a lot's on the line, as we mentioned before. Thug representing the losers bracket and Nexon representing the winners bracket. So if Thug wins here, this bracket resets and it's a winner take all match.
exactly. So because it's exactly as Ned said. Since he came from the lower bracket, he needs to. If he wins, it's not the end. We have one more race going. We'll have one more set, and basically, Dark Knight started pretty decently for both of them.
Right.
But Nexin didn't have a THDD at hand, but now that doesn't matter. He just draw the Skull Knight plus Megamorph. But the good thing, the thing about the Dark Knight that can be easy is you can risk it if you just have a pure THDD. If you just have THDD at hand, you can risk it by fusioning it and setting it at Moon, and it has advantage against the Cosmo Queen, which is the second most common card for Dark Knight to set in the first round.
Right. It's about
So
38% odds to happen, generally speaking, when it comes to the Cosmo Queen start. And we've seen a lot of PB attempts rely on the Cosmo Queen start because of the Moon Guardian star that's Windheaded has, which benefits against Venus.
yes, and considering the slow duel on set of third, Nexin just flied through on Dark Knight. So he
Yeah, that was a
only has
really
to
good
face
duel for
Nightmare.
Nexon. So it all comes down to this. So the game is that Nightmare only plays monsters, so we'll see no back row, no magic or trap card.
Yeah, it's just monsters. So if you can't draw something ASAP, that can dominate the board or have some removal at hand, you will get obliterated pretty easily, pretty quickly.
Right. And it's a B
And
skull start for Nexin. This is actually interesting.
That's pretty good. It's quite a good start. He has a THTD card without fusion, a pure THTD, and all he has to do, is
Turn
switch the
2
face.
Wall Shadow.
Wow,
That is huge.
that is huge. But let's remember that Thug is on Nightmare as well. So just to recall what
Oh
happened
my
at GDQ.
gosh. He just got a twin-headed start.
Wow, that's quite amazing. Now he can he can win against it because he has an equipment.
Yeah, it
And
is so close right now.
It's really being a tight haze right now because as I was recalling during the GDQ showcase, Nexin and Kanitz were neck to neck once again. Were neck to neck, and Kanitz got the win with a difference of only 10 seconds. So
That is
both runners
crazy.
now at Nightmare, it can be just as short as it was of a difference because both runners are at Nightmare. Nexin is having a slow start, and Tug is picking it up, the pace. Oh, this gigantic tripwire Beastman.
Oh my gosh. It's gonna come down to the last turn here for Thug. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
It's a Jupiter in defense. It's gonna come down to who finishes.
It's a Jupiter in defense. It's gonna be really, really, just who has the fast emotions, and I guess that's going to be.
Oh, it looks like it's gonna be Nexin. Nexin has done it.
Oh my god, I couldn't. Wow, dude.
Wow.
That was less than 10 seconds.
Oh, that was 5 seconds. Are you kidding me?
What was the difference? Because it seemed that like Nexin had this
Raigeki. Raigeki was the huge difference in that turn.
Oh, because he had Crush Cut and Raigeki at hand.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy, dude. Because Thug did have a better start and was just going through the motions, and Nexin had to wait, be sure something would have the cards because he didn't have initial cards to make the above the 3,000 ceiling. So yeah, that was
crazy.
What a crazy finish.
Wow, how fitting of this tournament to end fashion.
Yeah, that's something that I was, a little bit worried because during the GDQ showcase, we had this really hype and really tense finish. 10 seconds of difference throughout the game. Both runners were really so close to each other. And now, during this race, at the beginning, I was a little fearful because Tug didn't got a trap at the beginning. Nexin did, and the Megamorphs started showing up more for Nexin than for Tug. So to have this finish so close that it was, considering both the stats that the runners had, man, Thug did give a fight. Thug did give a fight.
Thug absolutely put up a good fight as well. Like you can only count on maybe like one hand how many finish that close, let alone in the grand finals.
And you know what? Let's think about it. It was a Raigeki that was the difference. So the 8 tech on Shadi.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
It's one of the things that did, it was like butterfly effect, if you come to think of it. Just this little small thing. I'm just gonna do an 8 tech on Shadi just for my fans, because I like them a lot. And I actually drop a Raigeki, and this second Raigeki is what
I cannot believe it how it happened. That's crazy.
It's poetic, dude. It's definitely
it's poetic justice indeed.
It's like Here in Brazil, we have this. This is general, right? This is not just for Yu-Gi-Oh or gaming culture. In Brazil, we have this, idea, this meme that uh, a lot of incredible things happen in Brazil in regards on how the things happen. Like there's a script writer, a dedicated script writer doing, writing the things that happens on Brazil because of how
Yeah.
ridicule the things are over here sometimes. And this is one of those cases. The Brazilian script writer, that is in charge, just presented us with this lovely piece of poetry that is the grand finals of the Forbidden Memories, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories 15 card drop tournament. So yeah, the grand winner is Nexin, third KJJ second place, and Knitz on third place. Are the final standings of the tournament. Both all the runners that participated on the tournament were great. They were great. Even the people that just started or weren't training as much. But the final three, they really deserve a lot of of congratulations and any sort of celebrations, because Kanetsu was one of the most consistent runners during the tournament in regards to timings and drops and whatnot. Nexin has been pretty popular, and KJJ, despite having a setback on his winner's trajectory, got into the lowers, but did some great comebacks to be on this final. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and definitely from a runner's point of view, definitely coming back from uh in the first part of the bracket is not an easy feat because you have to win consecutive victories in order to get to where you are. And uh, for both of these runners, again, there's no exception to that as well. They both fought their butts off during this race, and absolutely, and go follow both of our runners, Nexon and Thug. Very qualified, very great FM runners in their own rights as well. Uh, yeah, with how close that race was. A fun fact as well, that um, actually I was as I mentioned, I was at MagFest earlier this year, and I did a 15 card race with my good friend GFC, and the race difference between both of us, and I kid you not, the race difference was 15 seconds between the two of us.
And you
So
guys
it
must have
speaks
felt
wonders
like
of how
it's crazy, right?
yeah, it speaks wonders of how close these races are. But yeah, this was at a live charity marathon as well at MagFest.
Oh, pretty nice then. And I was gonna say something, but I totally forgot. Sorry. But
No, it's okay.
I think it was with regards to um I can't recall. Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
But basically the races were really close, and the runners did their best to showcase the game and run fast. And oh, I recalled right now. I remembered. There's this thing that since the race was so close, we couldn't see it. But during the tournament, since some of the races were more had more time between each other, the finish times uh, were not so close like this one. The runners would often end the final duel with Nightmare using the square button to show the animation. So it became a meme during the transmission
Hmm.
that the run is only validated if the runner does the last attack on the enemy on the monster using the 3D arena animation. So some people on chat during the speedruns Brazil right now were talking. The run was not validated. Do over. The run was not validated. And the other thing
It
that
does happen.
it does happen. And the good thing, I think, looking at the trackers and looking at how this final bout went on, how it went, is that no MBDs, no Meteor Black Dragons farmed for both runners.
Right.
They didn't have one, and I really like when the run goes smoothly even without an MBD. Because I mean,
Right, and Skull Knight is definitely evidence of that as well. With the right equips and the right material in the deck, Skull Knight can be a force to be reckoned with.
exactly, and because I mean, this is a quip that I've been, that been surging, not surging, but a quip that has been, been created inside of me, that a feeling that I don't like too much. That is that people that were watching the tournament, uh, mostly viewers that don't run the game, were overhyping the Megamorph and overhyping the Meteor Black Dragon. I mean, they are really strong cards, but what I want to try to say, what I'm trying to say, is that they're not necessary to finish a good run.
Right.
You can do just as well with the right amount of equipment, the right amount of thunders, fields, and with enough strategic and knowledge of the game, you can do pretty good timings. You don't need an MBD. You don't need exactly need Megamorphs because there was this feeling that was being created. At least I think that chat would always perceive that a runner with no Megamorph was going to lose. It's a bit, I don't like that idea so much, and creates a wrong feeling, a wrong idea about what is the speedrun of this game. So it's nice to see a run with no MBD that goes as close as this and sub 2 hours.
And
Sub
let
2
alone,
hours.
and might I add to that as well, and let alone, it was first try for both of our runners. Thug had first try final 6. Nexon stormed through and got a first try final 7 to win
Yeah,
the
that's
championship.
if that's not a testament to how this game can be crazy sometimes, and even I mean, Doug must be thinking, "Oh, I should have done Final 6," but if you come to think of it, it would be a lot. Could be a
Oh,
lot different.
yeah,
But
Doug didn't do anything wrong whatsoever with the final 6 play. It was just a matter of who got what in the last turn, and ultimately, as you said previously, Regeki from Shoddy, from earlier in the run for Nexon, is what basically decided everything.
yeah,
It talk
it
about
was
poetic justice.
it was a really it was a factor, a huge factor in how the race ended. And it's easy to say that it would be really easy, it would be as well easy to say that the final 6 became a huge factor if Nexin died through the final 7 attempt, because they would have the lead would have the advantage.
Absolutely,
And this is
anything
a
could have happened then.
new and by the way, this is the new personal best timing of the tournament.
Yeah, and what a better
1
way to
hour
do it.
50. What a better way to do it? Setting, the grand final, bout. Both runners got timings that beat the previous record of the tournament. So yeah,
Yeah, this was
it
1
was
and 2
amazing.
respectively in the tournament.
So I mean, it goes to show that despite the randomness of the existing in the game, the better duelists can shine more than the others sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's really more about how you because a lot of people like, oh no, it's just lottery, right? You go Forbidden Memories speedrun. Why do you speedrun this? It's just lottery. There's nothing to be done. You just pray for the good cards. But
Yeah.
it's how you react to the RNG and how you can be creative with some unconventional methods or decisions, because some people would be really adamant. No, I need to farm an MBD to go to forensics. I need an MBD to that. Or there's a case in this tournament that was pretty nice to watch. It was during the lower bracket run. It was the match of Lendario Z against Azura, and Azura is the one that did commentary for me during the GDQ showcase, and it was doing the commentary right now for the live stream on Speedruns Brazil. So during this race, Azura didn't get a lot of equipment, and he tried to farm the MBD, couldn't get it. He dropped a lot of Yummies and Dark Energies, and during the metal farm, he dropped a lot of School Knights. I think it was 2 School Knights, 3 School Knights. So what he decided to do was, forget about completely the THD in a sort of way, because he didn't have a lot of equipment, and he converted his deck to, a dark deck. So he would have a lot of dark things that would be boosted on the Yami field, and the Skull Knights and the Dark Energies, and swords, the sword that equipped in the dark monsters. So he was doing the final seven pretty swimmingly at the first phase of the final seven until Haishin second. But it was nice to see some of the runners try something more different, and it did give Lendario a shock, because he was feeling pretty safe during the race. But now there was his opponent knocking on the door of the final seven, and he had to forego a lot of the farms he was planning to do. Let's say that he was safe, and had to go with a lesser deck, not a deck so strong as he was intending to. So yeah, that was lovely. There was some pretty good strategies, some pretty good matchups, and some, pretty dank strategies going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, it's a testament as to what other strategies you can put in place besides winning Megamorph, winning Meteor B Dragon, winning removal and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and it speaks for wonders that, how these approach these different kind of methods, and, other runners that have these same methods as well. You don't necessarily need one card or all of them to beat the game. It's more of finding a good strategy to put in place and trying to put it to good use. And as you saw with both of these runners, they both definitely did that. So it was a great race to watch. It was definitely fun and a privilege to not only give good in-depth analysis as to what these runners were trying to do, but also kind of like bask in the moment and kind of share this with Vash and other people as well. So, like we mentioned before, please follow both of the runners that you saw here during the restream. It would be greatly appreciated because they both play a lot of Forbidden Memories as well. And also, don't forget as well, for us commentators as well, if you would like to give us a follow as well, we also do play Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories as well. So if you have questions that pertain to how the game works, or if you're interested in learning more about the game, hop over to one of our streams, and you're more than welcome to ask us questions and kind of learn from a runner's POV. And also, as well, don't forget to join the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories Discord server. It is discord.gg/YGOFM. One of the moderators will put the link there in the chat. If you are interested in joining our community server, feel free to give it a look. And if you're interested in learning about the game, stop on over and we'll help you out if you have any questions.
Yeah,
But I think with that said, any final thoughts on what you thought of with this match? Any questions or anything like that?
well, I mean, it was quite of a, an awesome display for the game. Both runners got starts that, were pretty decent. We had some trippings on the way. The situation seemed dire for some runners, but you guys saw what happened. It was an amazing match, and I would like to thank the invite for, to do this commentary with Nate. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. It's really it was, I really got surprised when I got the invite. So thanks again, DBK. It's really nice to showcase what the Brazilian speedrunning scene can do, and being here to bring more depth about, what is going on through in the community, what was the tournament like, the feelings, the ideas, the memes, and so on. It's nice to shine some light on this amazing community, and I and thank the tech crew that organized everything. Thanks again to Nate to help me out with the commentary, because I mean, I can speak in English, but not as fluently as I would like. So it's nice to have someone with more a better flow, let's say, to make the
That
commentary
synergy,
go.
basically.
Yeah, synergy. That's a good word. So yeah, thanks to the runners, thanks for the viewers as well. there's no sense in what we do in regards of casting a tournament, doing a tournament if there are no viewers. So the viewers are part of the show as well. So thank you all, and I think that's it. Follow the runners, follow the commentary, and follow more speedruns. And by the way, I think the anime speedruns will be opening some. We'll have some sort of event. We'll be opening some registration, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just about to mention as well that in about less than 2 months' time, about a month and a half from now, I'm still in the works of planning things out. But as I mentioned before, I am in the process of getting a new season set up, 15 card. A 15 card mod season 3, I'm going to get set up here pretty soon. So check back again in the Forbidden Memories Discord server for any future updates in regards to that event. And I promise it is going to be one of the biggest 15 card tournaments that you have ever seen. So don't miss out on that, folks. Again, 15 card season 3 coming in January 20. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's because I thought it was mute over here. Sorry. I heard no sound. I thought you ended. Sorry, that's what I tried to say.
That's okay. But with that said, everybody, thank you so much for being a part of the restream today. We really do appreciate it. As we've said time and time again, follow the runners, follow the commentators, and don't forget to follow this channel as well for any future announcements for anime speedruns. I understand that there's a Discord server for anime speedruns as well. If one of the moderators would like to add that as well, please feel free to join the anime speedruns Discord server as well if you're interested in learning more in regards to like anime speedruns outside of Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a bunch of anime speedruns if you're interested in checking out what that server has to offer as well. But a very special thank you again to DP-san for allowing us to commentate during today's restream, and to all of you for watching. We really yeah, thank you so much again for being here, folks. I'm Bad News Nate, alongside with Vash, saying thank you so much for watching,
Vash.
everyone. Hey, Vash.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed the and take care of yourselves, folks. We'll see you for more Forbidden Memories content. Take care, folks.
All right, everyone. Thanks. We're going to go ahead and raid Nekazin-san. He's still alive. Let's just give him a quick raid, show him some quick love. And I'll be back a little bit later with some Full Metal Alchemist and some other anime stuff. But I appreciate it. Let's go hit the raid. I don't know why it's auto playing that. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Let's go ahead and get in the raid. Sorry. Make sure you guys give Vash-san a follow as well. Appreciate it so much. Thank you everyone for hanging out. And yeah, we'll be back later. ASF has the Yu-Gi-Oh announcement soon. Maybe we have the possibility of hosting some more grand finals if there's a season 3 coming out, like Bad News Nate-san said. I know the Brazilian community is doing more stuff. So if you have questions, just DM one of the admins at ASF or someone in the Forbidden Memories Discord, because we'll be posting announcements for the Anime Speedruns Festival events there. And even if you don't speedrun, just come hang out and casually. It's a good cross community and a good platform. All right, I'll talk to everyone soon. Bye-bye. Thank you again to Speedruns Brazil and Kamari-san for setting up this event. Let's go ahead and raid. Hit him with